This rare Caro-Kann line is so sharp that both sides must know 8 moves of only theory just to survive. Miss one, and you're either losing a piece or the game. Before we dive in, I need to be upfront. The Tal Variation is an extremely theory-heavy line. Both sides have only moves, and if you forget any of them in a real game, it's very likely you're going to end up in a completely losing position very, very quickly. In this video, I will walk you through the best moves for both white and black, plus the most common mistakes and how to punish them. But this isn't a line that you're going to be able to just wing over the board. Accuracy is extremely important here, and if you want to play this line successfully, you're going to have to know the moves cold. So this variation begins in the Caro-Kann, and we'll play the advanced variation with pawn to e5, and black has to play the move bishop to f5, which is the most common move. And we'll start what is known as the Tal variation by playing the move pawn to h4. The first idea of this move is that it actually sets a trap. If black plays the most natural looking move, e6, which is actually the most common move online at 37%, then the bishop is actually trapped, and you'll have nowhere to go, and black loses a bishop out of the opening. The second most common move played online is the move pawn to h6 in order to make an escape square for the bishop. However, this move is actually also inaccurate because we're still going to play the move pawn to g4, attacking the bishop. And if the bishop runs away, we're going to continue to attack it until it goes to h7. And once it goes to h7, one of the main ideas of this opening is that we want to be able to play the move pawn to e6, sacrificing the pawn in many cases, with the idea being that we want to sacrifice this pawn in order to create a huge light square weakness on black's king that we can potentially attack with the queen with moves such as queen to g6 check, and causing a lot of issues for black's king practically, at the cost of just a pawn. So we know that pawn to h6 is an inaccurate move because it allows us to attack the bishop and then play our main idea of pawn to e6. The best move in this position for black is to play the move pawn to h5, which stops us from playing the move pawn to g4, attacking the bishop. In this position, white wants to play the move bishop to g5, with the idea being that it pins the e pawn, because if black tries to move the pawn, we'll simply pick up the queen. So this move makes it a lot more difficult for black to play their natural looking move of pawn to e6. A common mistake that is going to be tried online is the move pawn to f6 in order to try and attack the bishop. This move is actually a mistake, and we were able to play a really nice move, bishop to d3, simply ignoring the attack on our bishop. If white tries to trade and then take our bishop, we actually have the move queen to g6 check, and after king d7, pawn to e6 check, king c7, and in this position, we are down material, but practically it's really, really bad for black due to how unsafe their king is. Even though white is down a piece, the engine's evaluation is slightly advantaged towards white, giving plus 0.3 in favor of white. Meaning even though white is down material, the weakness of black's king is so significant that the engine thinks it's equal, but practically this is a really difficult weakness to handle for a human being. In this position, the best move for black is to try the move queen to b6, which attacks the b2 pawn and puts pressure on the d4 pawn. What's really important to remember as white is that this b2 pawn does not matter to us whatsoever. We as white do not care if black takes this pawn. And in fact, if black takes this pawn in many variations, it's actually completely losing for black to do so, because we'll be able to take advantage of it by getting a huge lead in development and attacking black's very weak king. In this position for white, the best move in the position, according to theory, is to play the move bishop to d3. This move looks really insane because it doesn't defend the b2 pawn, so it's still hanging, and it undefends the d4 pawn, which means it's now hanging as well. The next very common mistake to cover is in this position if black tries taking the pawn on b2, which in this position is actually completely losing. By taking the pawn on b2, this allows white to pick up the bishop on f5. And if white takes our rook on a1, as white, we have to remember the main idea we have, and that's to play the move pawn to e6. If black takes this pawn, we take back with the bishop, and all of a sudden black's king is actually in serious danger. We already have ideas like queen to f3, and then queen to f7 coming in with serious threat. A way this line can play out is with a move like knight a6, knight f3, knight c7, bishop h3, queen takes a2, and castling. This position, even though white is down material again, they're actually completely winning according to the engine. The engine's evaluation in this position is plus 2.5 for white, which means that even though white is down a rook, the attack is so devastating on black's king that they're actually not going to be able to survive this position, even with engine play. So, going back, we're remembering that the move queen takes b2 is wrong because we can simply pick up the bishop, sacrifice the rook, and play pawn to e6, creating permanent weaknesses on black's king, to then attack later on in the game. The best move for black in this position is to play the move queen takes b4, taking the center pawn instead. Now in this position, really important that we don't just take the bishop. We need to play the intermediate move knight to f3 first, attacking the queen and protecting the e5 pawn. If we play the move bishop takes bishop, this move all of a sudden loses because of the move queen takes e5 check, double attacking the king and the bishop. After knight to f3, the best move for black is to play queen to g4, which moves the queen to a safe square that still protects this bishop. Now as white, we're able to exchange the light square bishops, and then play the move pawn to c4. The idea of this move is that we actually want to sacrifice another pawn, potentially, in order to open up a file against black's king in order to attack it. So if black takes it, we can already castle and think of ideas like stacking our queen and rook, and then going and attacking this king. The best try for black is to play the move queen to e4 check in order to try and take the pawn with the queen instead. And as white, the best way to defend is to block with the bishop to e3. And here black should play the move pawn to e6 in order to be able to try and develop this dark square bishop before it becomes too difficult later on in the game. As white, we can play the move knight to d2, defending this pawn and attacking the queen. A move like queen to d3, say rook to c1, bishop to b4, and then at this point, you can just start taking the pawn in the center. But both sides at this point, have successfully evaded all of the mines in the line. From here, the position is fairly equal, with fighting chances for both sides. But all of the major traps and common mistakes have been avoided. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed all the traps and the guide, please let me know in the comments and by liking and subscribing. It helps out a small channel like mine greatly. Other than that, good luck in your future chess games. Have a good rest of your day, and goodbye.